Well, ladies and gentlemen, it's 3 o'clock and we get to have a meeting. Yeah, we'll call the meeting to order. And are there any declarations or conflicts from the council?
I just want to say, I may just have to leave because I am on call today and duty might be calling and I couldn't get out of it. So if I get up and leave, I've been called to work. So my apologies, thanks.
Thank you. So we should adopt the agenda. First, all in favor? Yeah, okay. So we have a delegation. AJ McLean from the McLean Group with regards to Blackcomb Helicopters lease.
Oh, okay, there we go. Afternoon, my name is AJ McLean, and I'm here to represent Blackcomb with Kenny Diebel, our VP of Real Estate. We appreciate your time today, and thank you for your consideration regarding our request for a new head lease. As you know, we've been part of the community here for roughly 20 years, which has not only benefited our business, but our employees as well. Seashell has been a fantastic place for our company and its culture, which is family-oriented. It's a very compelling place to call home. I also want to note that it's been a pleasure communicating with Ben at the district office. I very much appreciate his time that he has given to Blackcomb. We started this process in 2017, and it's been fun working with you. Following the letters and the report to council and the mayor, we would like now to address any questions regarding the reports or the letters.
I'll give it an attempt. So as Andrea introduced, my name is Kenny Diebel with the McLean Group and part of Blackcomb Aviation. As she has stated, we've been part of the Seashell community for the last almost 20 years. We started as a single operator and expanded from there, and with the help of the district to continue to grow and look forward to growing in the future. On that, there was some questions that came up on the November 6th council meeting that we addressed, and we have submitted that to Ben, who I think submitted it to council. And if there's any questions out of those four that I think the council asked on November 6th, I'm here to answer all of them. I think I answered them in the report, but I thought if there was any other further questions, I will do my best to help out.
Thank you. So any questions of council? Councillor McLean?
Yeah, thank you for outlining all of this in the report. Between this and the staff report, I think it really covered a lot of the concerns I had. But since I have you in front of me, I'm going to throw in an extra question.
Oh, sure. Sure. Go ahead.
Just considering operational activity at the airport. I understand that you want to change the configuration of your lot a little bit to make it operationally more safe. Just go into a little more detail about that.
Yeah, well, that is true. That's a fair comment. We as we stated earlier, we were a single operator, Jet A engine, smaller helicopter could land safely there. We can still land safely there with our bigger ones. But when the district approached us to expand our lease lot, because there was a 20,000 square foot area in between that really is underutilized by ourselves and by the district, we thought it would make sense. And in doing that, we committed to upgrading that small, I didn't think you mentioned it at the council meeting, area that's underutilized, expanding it, cleaning it up, expanding our pad a little bit. And safety is one of our main priorities, so it allows us to approach the whole thing a little different for landing. and ensures that we can move our machines in and out safely and even land two or have two on the landing pads or itinerant pads at any given time. That's the big reason behind it. Plus, we may look at expanding our base, our maintenance down the road. I can't say if that's going to happen now or 10 years from now, but we have contracts with BC Hydro. We continue to expand and work with BC Hydro. We work with forestry. We work with Fish and Wildlife. We also are trying to expand our tourism up here. So this, when the district approached us to take the 20,000 square feet, it just made a lot of sense, and it seemed to be a win-win for both sides.
Councilor Mayor Seegers.
Thank you. Thank you for putting all that information together.
You're welcome.
That is the information that we were looking for. As you know, Ben does an amazing job, and it's not his only job to do the airport. So, outside information is always helpful.
Yeah, it's funny because me and Ben, I got here early and went for a walk, and I ran into Ben and we had a long chat.
Yeah. All right. I don't have any comments. We can probably move on.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, is there any new business? No. Okay, so we'll move into our business items, and the first one is the Blackcomb helicopter lease extension and expansion report by Ben Curry. Okay. Move receipt. Okay, all in favor?
Thank you, Chairman. I did provide a PowerPoint, although a lot of information has been provided already in the report and also in the Blackcomb delegation as well. Just wanted to kind of step back and provide a more detailed look at how we determined the rate, how it became 25 cents a square foot, and then also just to provide a better context about the lot that we're talking about, more just for educational purposes, but I'll try to breeze through it, and if anyone has any questions, just interrupt, and I'd be happy to answer any particular questions. So why we're here today is that on October 16th that we presented to regular council that a new lease with Blackcomb be completed. The lease length we recommended was for 20 years with 2 options to renew at 5 years each. At that meeting, council requested that further information be provided about the lease rates and for bulk fuel. The property location at our airport is the highlighted square here on the map. So just for context to show if the airport runway was ever extended to 4,000 feet or further, to show that this wouldn't be, this wouldn't interfere with any future development or future extension or any clearway, any setback that would be required from the runway. So just for context of entering into a 30-year lease, that this wouldn't interfere with any development that could possibly happen in the near future. To zoom in a little bit further on the actual lot itself, this is the Blackcomb existing lot on the right-hand side. The pink shaded area would be the proposed extension, and the green shaded area is the right-of-way of 20 meters, which we've set aside for future access to the runway if needed. And the lot on the left-hand side is the forestry firefighting lease, which you see has taken a little bit of our land on the air side there. A bit of background on the Blackcomb lease itself and what brought us to here today. The district entered into a lease with Goldwing Helicopters in 2001. That was an 18-and-a-half-year lease with an option to renew for 5 years. So that lease expires at the end of this year. The lease was assigned to Blackcomb Helicopters in 2007, and the lease footprint was then increased in 2015. So nothing had happened on the lease between 2007 and 2015. The prior lease, so this is going back to the lease footprint, which was increased in 2015. The shaded area is what it was increased to. And without looking at the report or the justification, it looks like it was for the proposed hangar, which was coming in the next couple of years. So on fast forwarding to June 2017, Council endorsed Blackcomb's 5-year renewal. So Blackcomb approached Council in 2017 to request that they exercise the 5-year renewal option, and that was in anticipation for the improvement that they were bringing for the hangar. Blackcomb invested approximately $700,000 into the property in June of 2017 with the new hangar and other improvements. Staff completed the lease extension modification agreement in 2018 and forwarded it to Blackcomb for sign-off. Blackcomb requested the longer lease, so Blackcomb received the lease extension. We didn't sign it, or it wasn't completed based on them requesting a further extension. In April earlier this year, Blackcomb requested that we extend further than the 5 years, and staff requested or approached Blackcomb to see if they were interested in leasing the property to the northwest. So in April earlier this year, Blackcomb agreed to the lot extension. A survey was completed this summer. The lease renewal and lot extension was forwarded to the Airport Advisory Committee, and the Airport Advisory Committee recommended this fall that a performance obligation be added to the lease to ensure that the land was utilized. Blackcomb agreed to the performance obligation this fall. The new lease agreement was brought forward to Council, and that brings us here today, recommending that the lease be forwarded on to Council. So you can see it's quite a lengthy process that began in 2015 and brought us here today. So it's not as though these lease renewals happen overnight. Just a bit of background on how the 0.25 cents per square foot was determined. So this is the rate that we were provided by the InterVista's consultant in a report from 2013 and 14. They recommend that leases be based on 0.25 per square foot with a CPI increase each year. This was determined based on land values between $250,000 and $500,000 per acre and at a rate of 65 years. The annual lease rate calculated based on those land values was determined to be 29 cents to 58 cents per square foot. However, once they did a market comparison, they determined that a go-to market rate was 25 cents per square foot based on the 29 to 58 cents per square foot pricing yourself way out of the market to comparable airports. So taking that into consideration, they recommended that 25 cents per square foot be your starting rate to lease out the airport land. The airport lease rate today at 28 cents per square foot, which is the CPI of 25, is the 2% CPI increase of the 25 cents added since 2013. We had a commercial land appraisal completed last week, who reviewed the property and also the information provided from Blackcomb, the research provided from us, and also just some comparables with land values around the Vancouver and Lower Mainland. And the commercial appraiser determined that it is their considered opinion that a land lease rate of 25 cents to 31 per square foot with a rate near the midpoint of 28 cents was a considerable and reasonable for the new lease. So we just wanted to provide that just in addition to our research, so you had further context that I think we are where we need to be with this market rate. In addition, we have provided our own comparison. This comparison between Pemberton, Port Alberni, and Powell River, that not every airport is alike because they service different sizes of communities. They also offer different services, hydro, water, sewer, septic, and they also some are limited in the winter. there's a number of factors, so we're not like any particular airport at the same time, but these rates do show that we are on the higher side. That being given, each of the airport managers that we talk to, they are all considering their own lease rate evaluation to bring them back to market as well. So in the new year, they each had commented that they're going to be doing their own research to determine where their benchmark should be. The bulk fuel was also mentioned in the council meeting in October. To provide some context on bulk fuel when it's included as a surcharge or in a royalty situation, the surcharge is typically used when bulk fuel is being provided by the landlord, say for instance us, and the tenant now comes in later and asks to add their own bulk fuel, essentially to get the fuel at cost. So in that case, when one of the new tenants or a tenant comes in and brings in their own fuel at cost, you could ask them to add the bulk fuel rate of say 5 cents per liter of fuel that's consumed or delivered. In this instance, on the Blackcomb property, we do not supply the equivalent fuel that's used for the helicopters. We supply avgas for the smaller fixed wing planes and users at the airport. So we don't have the same fuel for sale. So it's not as though they're skirting buying our fuel. It's the only option that they do have at the airport. Royalties are used in the instance when the tenant is selling fuel, so we could reach an agreement with Blackcomb one day to sell their jet fuel to other tenants and then ask for a royalty on the sales. So in that instance, in this current instance, they're not selling fuel at the airport, and the airport the fuel that's on site is just for their own consumption. At this time, the additional fuel surcharges are not recommended for this current lease. However, it is built into the lease that any new further additional fuel changes would have to be brought back to us for consideration of a surcharge or a royalty. I added this lease lengths in here for context as well. So this provides an idea. We don't currently have a policy that's guiding the lease lengths at our airport, but I did find this one from the Cold Lake Regional Aerodrome. So this just provides an idea of the required investment value to the lease length terms. So in their instance, they're 25-year leases for investments up to $300,000. So just purely for information, so that you have an idea as far as how other municipalities are doing this. The financial implications: Blackcomb currently pays $66,624 with property taxes of $3,328, and the proposed lease would bring the rate to $21,000 a year, and their property taxes as well will likely see an increase based on getting final occupancy on the hangar in 2019. So we should see an increase of taxes for the 2020 taxation year. In conclusion, we believe the district's land lease rate at 28 cents a square foot is the fair market value at this time. We do not recommend that the committee or council consider a fuel surcharge or a royalty agreement with the current lease. The one note: the rent provided in the lease. This is of all the reviews of the lease, the only person to catch this was Alton. And there is the rent that's on the lease says per month. It will be per year. Throughout the report, it no. So we will change that for the final lease, which would possibly be going back to council. So thank you, Alton, for bringing that change. So staff, we do agree to the suggested lease changes presented from Blackcomb, and we recommend proceeding with the lease length of 20 years with the option to renew for 5 years. And the recommendation before everyone today is that the committee approve the terms for the new lease agreement with Blackcomb and forward the lease to council with suggested changes from the Blackcomb and the committee, and that the mayor and the corporate officer be authorized to execute the required airport lease agreement. Thank you.
Thank you. That was pretty informative. So, questions?
Thank you. In the letter from Blackcomb, they indicated two deletions they wanted in the lease. One was in section 3.14. And I'm reading what you've got here, and it looks like you've already taken that out.
I had crossed it out, but I had added it to this recommendation on the PowerPoint that we accept I suggest that we accept the suggestions from Blackcomb so that the new lease that comes back to council would include those changes.
Okay, so that would be the 3.14 and the 7.4.
That's correct.
Okay, and I noticed 7.4 you've got crossed off already in here too.
That's correct, yeah.
Okay. One of the things that came up at in discussion around the lease for the 20-year term was the fact that at the airport committee, there are plans to do a lot of improvements to the airport over the next 10 years. And the concern is that in 10 years, if we are at 4,000 feet, we have regularly scheduled service, will there be an impact on the lease rate? And should we have the opportunity inside this current lease to review the rate at 10 years? Not change the length of the term, but have an opportunity to do a market evaluation at that time. So that's a recommendation that was put forward. I don't know where council sits with that, but I'd like to potentially discuss that.
I think what we could do here is that we have a provision in some of our other airport leases that provides a market review, and this is usually based on renewal or on extension, that each of the parties brings an appraisal, a professional appraisal, and you take the average between the two, but nothing less than the existing rent. So we could add that into the terms of this lease so that after 10 years, we are once again gauging what the market value is. So if demand, further investments done at the airport and demand for the land is higher and the land values are higher, we would have the ability to increase the lease rate based on market. And I suggest that we would do that at the 10-year and then at the 20-year again. So if nothing significant has changed in 10 years, you still have a chance in 20 years.
Councillor McLean, did you have some comments or concerns?
I do, but they're on a different track. So are we done on that one? Yeah. Okay. Going back to the bulk fuel, we have one other helicopter operator. I assume they have their own bulk fuel as well. So, and I don't think Wildfire would have anything.
That's correct. I believe each of the tenants have their own bulk fuel and likely pool the deliveries together as well.
Okay.
I can.
Can we jump in?
Sure.
So our bulk fuel, as Ben pointed out, has been for 20 years and will continue to be just for our operation, because under federal regulations, you need what's called weight and measures. The other provider is also bulk fuel for his operations, and they were set up similar to ours just simply because helicopters require Jet A and the airport supplies avgas.
And just to note, the environmental regulations are federal, obviously, and the cost of putting in the tank itself is spectacularly high. So just that could be taken for consideration.
Yeah, absolutely. I've done that before. I've put in a fuel tank. It's crazy. Yeah.
Any other concerns or questions? Okay, Janice?
A comment. Just want to thank you guys both for just clarifying everything. It's made everything more clear for us. So I appreciate the work that you guys provided to us. Thank you.
Okay, so we have a recommendation that we recommend to council the terms of the new lease agreement with Blackcomb be approved. It says as presented. I would say, including the 2 modifications requested by Blackcomb and with the provision to do the market rent adjustment at 10-year, inside a 20-year lease with 2 5-year extensions.
Okay,
Yeah, you have provided wording?
it's on that last slide.
Okay. And that the mayor and corporate officer be authorized to execute the required airport lease agreement.
Okay. Do you want to look at the recommendation on the last page? Of the PowerPoint.
So we've got an amended recommendation in front of us, so is, okay, we have a second, yes, okay, all in favor? Unanimous? Thank you. So, move on to 5.2, so we'll can receive the report. Moved and seconded, all in favor? Yes, okay. So, yeah, so we're 5.2 is the bollards on Bailey Road and a report from Darwin Cooney.
Yes, if I may.
Engineering.
We do have some data that we've collected, some pre and post. We found at 2 locations that vehicle trips only increased by 28 and 40. We're finding that the road is operating as it should. The road design can take 900 vehicles per day, and we are way well below that. Also, speeds remain the same during our investigation. So staff are recommending that the bollards be not replaced. Any discussion? Okay, Mayor Sigers.
It's been, this whole process has been interesting. We had a few people in the area, a few residents in the area who were very much against having the bollards removed. Since then, some of them have actually, since we took them out and they've lived with them for a while, they've actually commented that they're enjoying having them out and appreciate that we actually went forward and did that. And the traffic has not increased substantially as they, thought it would. I know personally I was probably some of those numbers because I kept driving up there looking for other cars. Right? Say, I'm going to detour around this way and see what's happening up here. And they're actually, I was usually the only car on the road. So we haven't had people coming to us and saying, we want them put back in. I think they're pretty pleased with how it's turned out. So I'd actually make the recommendation as indicated on page 61, that we direct staff not to reinstall the bollards on Bailey Road and that access remain in its current condition.
Second, okay. Any comments? Councilor McLean?
Yeah, thank you. I just want to thank staff for taking the measured approach to this, in that we are actually measuring the impact of a change. I think we heard from residents that this could create a very large change in their neighborhood. So we measured it and we saw that it's not a massive change. I think the value of having connected streets is a large one for the greater community. And we want efficient travel in our communities, as well as safe streets. And I think through this data that we see that the street is relatively safe, as on par with any other street in the district of Sechelt. So yeah, I'm happy to support keeping them removed for more efficient streets.
Any more comments? Okay, I think we've got second on there, so all in favor? A unanimous decision, okay. So we'll move on to 5.3, engineering department activity list. And for receipt. Yeah. Okay, all in favor? We've got our seconded, all in favor, yes, okay.
In front of you is the activity list for our department. Of course, that includes engineering, public works, the WRC sanitary and parks, and staff are here to answer any of council's questions on any items.
Any questions from council? Mayor Siggers.
We'll start on the first page, page 94. Hackett Park Outdoor Stage, awaiting grant approval. Have we heard anything? If not, do we have any idea when we're going to hear?
So hopefully she could provide a bit more information. She's not here though. Go ahead.
Yeah, I haven't heard that we received anything at this point, so I believe it'll be a carryover to next year.
Mr. McLean?
Going to page 96. Wakefield Road culvert replacement. I just want to look back on that one and look at why it wasn't considered at the same time as the rest of the works on Wakefield Road.
Wakefield culvert is replacement culvert is an expensive one, so we tendered that. It came about 750,000, but the available funding is about 400,000, so we can't proceed that one. So that's why we are requesting more funding from the 2020 budget.
Okay, I think I understand that. I think there can be cases where we can come back and look at the budget when we can do a project more efficiently, such as doing the sewer work and the culvert work at the same time. I don't think it may have not been quite possible in this case, but I do want to encourage staff, if there is something where we can do it more efficiently, bring it forward and we can look at a budget amendment if needed partway through a year.
Any more questions from Mayor Siggers?
Okay, on page 97, Marine Way retaining wall. This has been a number of years that this one's been on here. And when it came forward initially, it was an emergency repair. And this emergency has been at least 3-4 years. Well, it's more than 2 years. It's been on the budget for 2 or 3 years already. And we're still not moving forward. Is there not immediate, like, potential damage that could happen to some of those houses down there?
The district retained Turbo Engineering to complete the design on that. So they started the design, engineered retaining wall. We have only 14-meter right-of-way, and it is about 7-8 meter high retaining wall, and very difficult to construction within the right-of-way. And the rock, there's a bedrock, and that was also very deep. So there's a couple of options considered, and finally they came with the MSC wall that cost over $1 million. So then we asked any other temporary alternatives, and yes, they came with another temporary scaling and the rearrange the boulders, the existing boulders for temporary stability. We trying to work on that. Then the property owner the below. The owner is willing to do some development on the property. She came to the district and asked how we can give some additional lands right of way to build the retaining wall and give her a parking spot along the road. So we are still under discussion that if we provide additional 5 meter, and she need to know what is the left and the land for the construction of the house over there, and to get the access from Marine Way. So currently we are doing some surveying and figure out with the property owner is feasible for 5 meter right of way, getting a right of way from their property.
Councillor McLean?
I just want to follow up on
okay,
that.
sorry.
Yeah, follow up on that. So is there no potential damage that can happen in the meantime?
That's the report came from our geotechnical engineer. We have to do some scaling. That means rearrange the rock. That is adequate temporarily, but the property owner needs some little bit because of the all 1 million came because of the right of way issue, and she's willing to give right of way to build a retaining wall now, but then we have to go back to the engineer if they give 5 meter to reduce the the expenses with some different option. So the current funding is we have 100,000 now. That is adequate to do the temporary measures.
And just to follow up again on that, how long will those temporary measures be good for then?
The report indicates it can be 5 years, 10 years, but that depending on if something happened like earthquake, and then it's that stands still there.
Okay. So further plans for this will come forward inside of budget deliberations, et cetera, when we have potential plans to move forward?
Yeah, that the alternative option available with the wire mesh is to anchor the wire mesh to a couple of rocks over there, and it will protect the rolling rocks to down.
It's like what they use in the Rockies.
Yeah.
Through Rogers Pass.
Yeah, even we can see those in C2 Sky.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Councillor McLean?
All right, the North Bay Lift Station, page 103. Is this work related to the spill that we had, I believe, in the spring, or is this planned work?
This is a part of our grant application we provided early this year. Still, the grant is not announced. We are waiting for end of this year. We requested 1.3 million to put a new lift station at Wakefield. The Wakefield lift station is very bad shape now, so we are waiting for that funding announcement.
Wakefield Lift Station or North Bay, or are they the same?
No, there's two different lift station. North Bay lift station is a small lift station for that little neighborhood, and this is the West Usual all flow going to that Wakefield lift station.
Okay.
Mayor Siggers?
Thank you. Back to page 98. Water Resource Center. Filter test bath. It says important purchase to maintain the integrity of the filters. 2 filters are damaged beyond repair already at a loss of $10,000. When do we anticipate the filter test bath will be in? It says end of this year, 10% completed. Are we looking at having them purchased and in place soon?
I believe we're going to wait and hold it over until next year. It's because of the budget right now.
And yet we're still short 2 staff members?
Yes, yep.
What would the cost of these filter test baths be, and would there not be sufficient funds to cover these off?
The filter test bath, I think the capital cost of it was 18,000. And we're tight, we're over budget right now.
We've already spent 10,000 for filters that are damaged.
These filters, they were part of the purchase originally, but they've come offline because they've been damaged and we can't repair them. And they weren't preserved. We'll have to see if we can repair them once we get the filter test bath, see if we can put them back online.
Staff?
They're
Do we
supposed
have
to be,
the
they're
money?
supposed to be, when they're removed, they're supposed to be preserved in a certain way. And that didn't occur.
To your questions about budget? Okay, so other areas about the sewer budget has been overspent, and so we're just not spending this, and this will come through in a budget adjustment later in the year or early next year for 2019.
So I guess I'm wondering, what's the impact if we don't have these? Are we spending more for filters, given that we don't have this equipment to do what we need to do? And so we're not spending it to stay within budget or whatever, but what's the cost to do that?
The 2 months, we're not anticipating, by the time we get our new budget, that we can purchase it. We're not anticipating that it would be that detrimental. It's just very important, and it's been held off for a long time. So just want to make sure that it's done soon, than the starting next budget year.
Yes. Okay, so I just have a question about the removal of the solids from the lagoons. Where did this come from in our budget? Did it come from septage or did it come from sewer? Because I would assume it came from septage.
Yes, came from septage.
So it's not a cost that came out of sewer funding.
No, I'm not quite sure. It was a capital request from last year, but I'm not sure how that was taken.
So last year we transferred $160,000 from net revenues in the Dusty Road operational area. So we had estimated, let's just say, 300,000 in revenues, and we had 40 of expenses. And so we took the difference and we moved it into the reserve, and then we used those funds to do the sludge removal.
Councillor Toth?
I guess I better speak at this meeting. We received a grant for bicycle pathway work up to Kinnickinnick, and I'm just wondering if there's any progress or anything towards that.
Thank you. Yes, a little progress. The reason is that there's a fish-bearing creek going on there, so we have to do some more investigation with environmental impact. However, we ask ISL engineering to complete the design. Actually, previously the plan was the district staff doing in-house, but the serving, complete the engineering service took a little bit more longer time. So then we thought it outsourcing for design portion only, ISL. Probably we will put a tender out by middle of January. And we asked the extension to construction. Originally it was March 30th. We asked the extension about a month and a half, probably middle of May to complete one. So, and we are now trying to put 2 tenders. One is clearing the area. There's a lot of trees need to be removed. So we get the deadline is I think it's Friday for tree cutting and removal, and complete the work by December 15th. So we probably put that construction award next week.
Thank you.
Mayor Siggers?
Thank you. Page 99. There's one for Jamie. Invasive species. I've actually had some contractors in the district contact me about knotweed. They've indicated that in Vancouver, if they triple bag them, they can go to the landfill. But I understand it's not accepted at our landfill here. So where do they actually dispose of them?
So most of our invasive removal is done through a contractor, and from my understanding, he's had to take the invasives off coast to dispose of.
We still have an invasive plant council or something over here, I think. Haven't met in the last while. It did come up at the regional district. I think they're looking at having another meeting. So that might be something that we'd want to look at, is how do we, I mean, if people take them off their lot, where do they put them? We need to have some kind of method for them to deal with them.
Absolutely.
Yeah, okay. That's it for that one.
Mayor Siggers?
Abandoned boat project. How are we doing with that one? You got a list.
I was starting to feel a little left out there. It's funny, Councillor Scott called me yesterday and we had a discussion. So how it's going, I've removed the 40-plus footer. It's sitting in the yard. Stephanie Peterson, the people that are in town right now doing the repairs on the wharf, she's going to come up. She's giving me funding out of small craft harbors to get rid of that boat. It's funny, with the grant, I had two choices. The gentleman came to me, signed his boat over to me. So my two choices were leave it there and it will sink within 24 hours, or take it out. So obviously I took the latter choice because I thought that was the right choice. So with the grant money from the federal government, the boat has to be in the water. That's exactly what I was told. So got in contact with Small Craft Harbors. They're going to help me with that. Myself and the guys on the crew, we disposed of 3 boats ourselves. So I'm just waiting to see what happens now. I'm having a meeting with Stephanie Peterson on Friday. So they're going to direct some funds towards that to get rid of this boat in my yard. With the federal, I'm still dealing with Dead Boat Society. They're assisting me quite a lot because the paperwork is redundant at times, but it's do this, and you got to jump through a lot of hoops. It's not dead. We're still going forward. We still have our $70,000 grant and that's what this grant is, to get a professional opinion on each boat A, B, and C, what it costs to dispose of this boat. So it's still going forward, and things are getting removed out of the water, so.
Follow up on that, it came up at the regional district as well now recently, conversation with the Dead Boat Society. And there will be a meeting coming soon with District Sechelt, Regional District, Town of Gibsons, et cetera. Because, I mean, if we say move on, well, they'll move to one of the other jurisdictions. So we need to look at some kind of consolidated effort. So that will be coming in the next
It
while.
is not Sechelt's problem, it's the Sunshine Coast problem,
Yes.
right? And you have more power with more togetherness. That way, with the district, Gibsons, all of us together, I think it'll be a best way to go.
Yeah, one of the big things then too is to look at how to fund it. How do we work together and deal with this?
And it's like anything else, and what the biggest problem is that when it starts affecting people in Porpoise Bay and stuff, they just move on to somebody else. They just become somebody else's problem.
Totally. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for staff? Mayor Siggers?
Thank you. On page, this is Water Resource Center, 104. So it says FBR and filter optimization study. We've had a permit variance until April 2020 to allow for the filter bypass. Is this tied into the previous conversation?
The previous conversation about the filter test bath? No, this, we need to optimize the processes that are happening at the WRC, and part of that reason is if we take the filters off and we're bypassing right from our secondary treatment, sometimes it's difficult to maintain in compliance. And there's a few issues around how we can improve that with different process changes that we can make. And we're just investigating that right now. And so we've applied to the MOE, the Ministry of Environment, just for permit variance to allow us to bypass the filters until April. We wanted to be able to catch the wet weather flow as well, because our flow increases during that time through the plant, and those times it's really difficult to maintain good treatment the way that we were running before. So we've made quite a few process changes now in regards to programming and the way that we're treating the effluent, and we're having some really good results. So it's just really to give us a snapshot of what our capabilities are.
And we're looking for 2 staff members.
Yes.
Are we advertising again? Where are we at with that?
We're just waiting for our human resources manager to give us a bit of a hand with that, and she's working in the background right now part-time until January. It's a level 4 operator and Dusty Road operator.
So level 4 operator is required because of the level of the plant. Is that an issue for Ministry of Environment that we don't have somebody?
They know the position that we're in right now, and level 4 operators are really hard to come by, so they're aware of it, and I think you've been keeping them updated on that.
That's correct. Just as long as we have a plan and we make them aware, they're fine with us moving forward, and that's what we're trying to do.
Anyone else? Oh my gosh. Okay, there's no recommendation. Yeah, just have to receive the report. We did, okay, good.
Motion to adjourn.
Okay, motion to adjourn. All in favor, Yahoo.